Welcome. My name is Dr. Liz Lipsky, and I am teaching you this course on the nutrition focused physical assessment. It's a very cool skill and one that I hope that you'll add to your toolkit that's already stuffed. And maybe you won't even be able to close the lid on that box, but still, it's one that I hope that you'll take some pieces of. It's a head to toe assessment that's done very quickly with your patients and even sometimes your friends, because you'll be having dinner with them and you'll notice cracks in their tongues, or you'll notice something odd about their skin, and you'll just go, huh, interesting. And it's another part of your pattern recognition language that you'll be using. For those of you who don't know who I am, I have a PhD in clinical nutrition. I have been in the field for a long time. I think I got my master's degree in 1979. And most recently, I was the director of academic programming and curriculum and also a professor at Maryland University of Integrative Health. And I retired from that a couple years ago. I developed their doctoral program, which was the first regionally accredited doctoral program in integrative and functional nutrition. I'm the author of Digestive Wellness, which is now in its fifth edition. In 1998, I wrote a book called Leaky Gut Syndrome. It was like a little booklet. Let's see, what else can I tell you about me? I teach for IFM and for A4M in their GI modules. And right now I'm a consultant content editor and somebody who adds things for AlgaCal. And none of that has anything to do with what we're going to talk about today. So that's just a little bit about me. So here we go. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Karazian. Datis is one of my favorite people, and I want to thank him for this opportunity, and also thank Susan Vennerhelm and John Dahlgren. They've made this whole process so easy. So with that, let's just get into the topic and really look at it. What we're going to be talking about is I've got this broken down into 9 categories. And so we're going to do an introduction to what is a nutrition-focused physical assessment. Another piece of this is that the physical exam used to be the bread and butter of old-timey doctors. They would smell a person's breath. They would look at their skin. They would palpate the spleen. They would really get so much information out of what was going on. You can learn so much from having a good physical assessment. But what's happening is that for the length of time that we have to see people, with how insurance covers things, with the urgency of other people's other health issues, this gets lost. And also with telemedicine, it gets lost. And we don't have that hands-on approach. And I remember I'm not in practice anymore, but when I was in practice, shaking hands with somebody or giving them a hug at the end of our session together, for some people, that's all the touch they've had in weeks. Touch is a very important part of what we do. When I was in practice, a lot of times I would think, oh, what I do is important because it's research-based and it's based on the evidence. And when I recommend this supplement or recommend this thing, it's because of the research. But we know how important a placebo is. It's about a third of our healing response. And when we sit and listen to somebody, when we take the time to touch them and show that we're paying attention, it really can make such a huge difference. I think being a nutritionist, I've worked in a lot of different clinics in the past and also had my own private practice. And I had the luxury of spending an hour and a half to 2 hours with somebody on a first visit to just go, tell me about your life. I have a model in my brain of the future of medicine, and the future of medicine is going to look more like my dental care. I go in, I get my teeth cleaned. Maybe the dentist pops in every 6 months for saying, oh, everything looks good, or you want to be aware of this, whatever. And that's really my model, is that when we go to see a physician, that if we're having an acute issue, we want to see the physician or nurse practitioner, or whoever the clinician is. And we really want to get that sorted out. But most of us have chronic health issues. And our form of medicine really wasn't designed for that. And what we know is that 80% of our chronic health issues lies in our lifestyle, in our sleep, what we eat, our community, and who's part of our daily world, our movement patterns, how we rest and relax. So much is there. So again, if you're not using an intake form that has a lifestyle assessment where somebody brings you in at least a 3-day food diary and a sleep diary and an exercise journal, please add those. They don't take a long time to look at, and they add so much. I was working with a woman and her son, and she owned a coffee, cookie, and ice cream company. And when I looked at their food diaries, what do you think they were eating? The son was only 12, so he wasn't having a lot of coffee, but he was having a lot of cookies and a lot of ice cream. And her food diary, I think, was one of the worst 2 I've ever seen. And her son was having a lot of issues with attention deficit and a lot of learning problems in school. And I said, you know what? I'd like you to eat an elimination diet for 2 weeks. And then we're going to meet again and we're going to see how you feel. And he said, okay. And I said, but you know what? On Saturdays, you can eat anything you want. You want to eat your cookies and your ice cream, go for it. I'm good with that. Everything's fine. You see how you feel on Saturdays and Sundays. And then Sunday, go back on the diet. So he comes back in a couple weeks and he's noticeably better. And what he says to me is, on the second week, I went to a birthday party on Saturday and I really binged on cake and ice cream. And I was disturbing to everyone. They asked me to go spend some time in a room by myself for a while. So this is the power of food. I love the effect that food and elimination diets of various types can have on people. And if you've heard me speak before, one of the things you probably heard me say is, if we had a drug that could reduce pain and inflammation and change brain function, as well as an elimination diet, and gut function, it would be the #1 selling drug of all time. So I love sitting in the little place that I'm in, and I hope that you will take some of this in and apply more real nutrition into your practice. So in the nutrition focused physical exam, we're looking at everything. We're going to look at muscle mass. We're going to look at fat stores just by touching people. If you can feel their ribs and there's no fat around those ribs, you're going to notice that. We're going to look inside people's mouths at their hair, skin, and nails. We're just going to ask them about their appetite. We're going to look at their overall general effect. We're going to, as part of your regular assessment, you're going to want to know how functional they are. And we're going to start seeing, are there specific nutritional issues and insufficiencies? So this has typically been in the field of dietetics. And we take the first sentence tells you basically what I just told you. And we're going to differentiate from what's normal and what's not so normal. And then we're going to assess and intervene. And then we're going to refer and collaborate. This is something that maybe you're not doing. Maybe the nutritionist or dietitian or health coach in your office is doing this. But it all goes back into the notes so that everybody has this information. So much of what we do is pattern recognition. We really focus on when somebody walks into our office, and right now you're looking at this little boy, and what are you thinking? What are you thinking? The first thing I think of is, whoa, this child probably has a lot of allergies. These are black shiners under his eyes. They're unmistakable. Or is he not sleeping at all? And if he's not sleeping, why is he not sleeping? With the dark circles under their eyes, often that comes with what we call the allergic salute, which looks like this. It's the kids wiping their nose. I used to do a lot of work for the Autism Research Institute and worked with a lot of families with autistic kids. And you can see this quite often. One of my grandkids has allergies, and I see these circles under his eyes. It can also be associated with asthma, eczema, other kind of atopic problems. So what do your first impressions tell you about your patient? I look at this military, sorry, I don't know which branch of the military, but look at this military doc and I say, her patient's not in good shape. I look at him and, okay, I think he's a mannequin and he's not breathing and he's not doing well. Okay, so I just like to have fun. For me, like one of the fun things about creating presentations is in picking out pictures. One of the first things we do is we shake someone's hand. Is that hand warm or cold? What does that tell you about somebody? What's their overall affect? I remember a few times Dr. Patrick Hanaway and I at IFM at early GI modules, we were modeling like how we are in the office with somebody. And he was the patient and he had a depressed affect. He had no expression. What do you do for fun? I don't. Looking at somebody's affect tells you a lot. Are they oriented in time and place? What's their grooming like? Do they look like they just rolled out of bed? Do they look like there's somebody who takes some kind of a few minutes on their appearance? Do they look like somebody who got all dressed up and made up just to look great for you? What does their grooming say about them? Do they have any odors? You're sitting in a small room with somebody. What do you notice? One of my clients had TMAU or fish odor syndrome. And basically, it's a lack of a genetic lack, usually, of an enzyme that helps break down, I forget the exact name of it, but break everything down to TMAO so that you don't have this smell. And what's interesting about it is that part of that enzyme system has something about flavin in it. So one of the ideas that I had for her was, what if we give you some riboflavin, which is vitamin B2? And we looked at that, and I was able to find a paper on it that demonstrated that 200 milligrams a day of riboflavin taken in divided doses actually helped mobilize this enzyme so that the fish odor started disappearing. She and I looked at kind of the foods that were involved, and she already knew that seafood was really bad for her. Any kind of fish or shellfish made the smell way worse, but also high choline foods can make it worse. Eggs, liver, peas, beans, peanuts, soy. And so looking at some of this, we started playing. We worked with an elimination diet where we looked to see were any of the other foods having an issue on this. She had been everywhere and she was really suffering. I'm sure you've seen people with TMAU in your practices. And she was able to really get this under control. Starting to think about odors. Do you smell a sweet acetone smell? You know what that means. It means somebody's probably diabetic and uncontrolled diabetes. Blood sugar's way too high. So this reveals early signs and symptoms that can point to nutritional insufficiencies. And it also really helps us to really look at specific vitamin deficiencies. And then we take all of this and we put this with our other data and we add this to our plans. One thing that I want to say about this is I put an in-body scale here as a picture to remind me to talk a little bit about it. The in-body or Tanita, there are lots of smart scales, and adding one of these to your practice gives you so much information about what's going on with somebody's body fat, their lean muscle mass, also water placement in their body. One of the people, Dr. Doug Wilmore, who's a close friend of mine, help with the development of this. And then later on, he developed heart failure. And he uses this every morning at 6 o'clock a.m. and gets on the scale, and he uses it to see whether he needs a diuretic or not that day. And he's been able to decrease his use of diuretics by about 80% because he uses this. He's written up a case report. I hope it gets published soon. You want to know from somebody what their ideal body weight is and what their current weight is. Anyway, that's about all for this one. And then this is just one more toolkit, okay? Just one more. And a couple things that I didn't talk about before, but ask them about their appetite, look at their food diary if they have one. If they don't have a food diary, ask for a 24-hour dietary recall. It'll give you a sense of what someone's doing. And then also ask them who shops and cooks. Like, where do you get your food? I watch my sister, and she often gets food from Fresh Direct. She lives in New York City, and she gets food delivered, and it's in the freezer. And then she supplements that with fresh vegetables and other things. And I think that's perfectly okay for someone who's 80. But I would still rather that she be cooking because I think fresh foods are better. And for me, cooking is part of my self-nurture. It's also part of my creative process at the end of the day of having something creative to do and saying, what would be interesting and delicious today? So we're going to integrate all of our lab data with these findings. These findings may actually inform what nutritional lab tests you want to run. Do you need a serum retinol level? Do you need carotenoid levels or B vitamin levels? What do you need? It might confirm a deficiency diagnosis. So you might go either way on that. I think it's a chicken and egg, and it can help guide your treatment plan. And then you just want to document everything so that you can collaborate with the rest of your team.
If you're a licensed healthcare practitioner ready to evolve your functional medicine practice, explore over 300 hours of clinical training, master classes with leading functional medicine clinicians, and certification pathways. Or check out the Academy of Functional Nutrition and Lifestyle Medicine at afnlm.com. Whether you're on the path to certification as a functional nutritionist or simply want to optimize your own and your family's health, our skill-building approach builds real-world competence from the ground up. And lastly, if you're dealing with chronic health challenges, visit drknews.com for self-paced courses that help you understand and address fatigue, brain fog, autoimmune conditions, gut problems, and more using evidence-based approaches. The content on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health regimen. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and share with someone who might benefit.